Hey everybody, welcome back to another all-new X's for Show, your premier media response show. And of course, this week we are responding to some Drag Race. I'm Nico, and you can check me out at Nico Action. Oh, Teak, we can't hear you.
This
There he
program
is.
and me. And I'm TK. You can find me at TK Elemental.
And I'm your producer, Kevo. You can find me at Kevo Really.
And we are, of course, here today to talk about the end of a big season of Drag Race, the first deep foray into another. Some, hey, Robbie, hey, Tasty Cake. And speaking of Tasty Cakes, let's bring in our very own Tasty Cakes with Jonah, if he's ready to come on into the studio. Hey, handsome.
Hi.
Hey there,
Hi,
young man.
everyone.
All right, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PeakJonah. That's Peak.
All right, guys, we have a big talk to do today. It is the end of the season of Drag Race, and that means a lot of really big things are going to happen with the end of a season. You don't just get the winning queen, but you kind of get the retrospective and the look back. And so I got to ask, what was your big moment from the last, because it's almost the end of the year, this is a Drag Race retrospective. What was your big moment of the year for Drag Race? I think for me, it was the music, whether it was BMX Bitches, or it was Goddess, or it was Latin Loose. It's just fashion. I was music eating all year. And not just because I had like 73 seasons of music too, which by the way is actually RuPaul's age, of music to burn through real quick. But this year was some music. So guys, what was your big Drag Race look back moment?
Look back. That was clever. I didn't know you were going to call it that before I sent the comment.
Sorry. Thank you. I was real proud of it as it came to it.
That's not the question in the script. You always pull these things on me.
Well, the script question actually was wrong, and so I had to update it. Anyway, just guys, answer the question.
I think I'm going to get real specific with mine.
Do it.
I think for me, it was Jinx singing When You're Good to Mama, Mama's Good to You. Just because, Jinx...
I hear you.
Jinx was really my queen when I started watching Drag Race. She was the one that really convinced me that I would like the show, and I really liked rooting for her. And to see her come all the way to, Broadway stardom, and then to come back to this place where she was really celebrated, I just thought it was a really great moment.
Yeah, I mean, really, truly, it's really incredible to think that she didn't just make the transition to Broadway, and like it wasn't just when I want to say it's Jay Rodriguez went from Rent to Queer Eye back to Rent, and at one point did Xanadont. Like,
yes.
It was one of those things where like there's so many people who make this big crossover between queer media in like the public eye and Broadway, but it's so rare that somebody starts from underground queer media and bursts through. It's really, it's easy for a guy who looks like Jake Shears, but it's a whole lot more impressive when it's a Jinx Monsoon.
I mostly discovered Xanadont because I had one of my Broadway chorus boy crushes on one of the random people in it. And so that's how I discovered that musical. It's an odd one. Everyone should look it up. I want to point out Robbie's comment of Anitra versus Marsha 8 this year. That lip sync is at like 5 million views. And it should be. That was certainly excellent.
Marsha and her little Whoville nose.
Oh, God bless. Jojo, you're our little drag baby. You have always been the draggiest element of our lives. What is your?
It's a tough answer because we got a lot of seasons this season of Drag Race,
We did.
there's I think a lot of really great, interesting moments to kind of pick from, choose from, things that I think really resonated with a lot of people. For me, it's it's kind of just the utter domination that was and is of Drag Race, the world, Sasha Colby. The fact that the entire world kind of got to see the talent and stardom that this individual is quite astounding, and I kind of don't think we'll probably see someone like her on Drag Race for a while. She's one in a million, really.
It really is a sort of like apex moment for a franchise. I think that Sasha Colby became so kind of ubiquitous with redefining what you think of when you think about Drag Race. I think when a lot of us think about Drag Race, myself included, 1 year ago, I was like, cunty angry people. But like, I didn't understand that like you could be Sasha Colby, who I think we can, drop the references to Mother Teresa, who has a questionable track record and past. And I think we can start saying, be that trans goddess, be Sasha Colby, who just floats into your life, grants your wishes with her beauty, and floats away to do her own thing. That's the term we need to bring in.
Yeah, I think that we've seen a lot of really important work being done in drag culture this year for a lot of different reasons, and it's been really awesome to see so many amazing, talented performers stepping up for such an amazing and important art form.
I also want to say that this was definitely a good year for me to discover old queens on fast forward. When you watch everything really fast, actually your memories are a best parts version, so it kind of works. And Jessica Wilde, she was like, because I watched so much so fast, Jessica Wilde was like oh, you didn't know this deep cut? Oh, for me later on. And I love La La Ree, the For Real experience. And it was just a great season. But okay, Jonah.
She eat the soft shell taco on Tuesday.
She wouldn't leave her EBT card.
She wouldn't leave her EBT card.
That was weird for me.
I love this. And I want to say, one of the things you pointed out, Jonah, is that there were so many seasons of Drag Race this year.
I mean, and this is permanent. This is if you start keeping up with international, you are now never not watching Drag Race. By the time we close out Canada, I'm sure there's one I'm not realizing is gonna overlap starting with Canada. There'll be an Asian one that's starting, and then my aggregator says January 31st for the start of the new season, and I think that's a semi-arbitrary date, but it's not going to be far off of that. So then we're doing that. There will be an international season, then we'll do All-Stars. The big rumor is that they are about to announce Global All-Stars, in which it's one queen from a bunch of countries. And so we're not only going to be getting, I think, some new stuff, but, there's just always a season of Drag Race now. And they've never been more accessible. I give them so much credit for making sure they're up and subtitled. I also give a lot of those Asian countries a ton of credit for basically being bilingual in a way that English speakers can consume them.
That is how you meme yourself. You say,
exactly.
I know that, and I'm being honest, but like you say, I know the ugly American syndrome means they're not going to want to look down at the subtitles. Better say the funny parts in English for them.
Yeah.
And I hate that that's how it has to be, but I love that it has allowed for so many unbelievably incredible series of Drag Race from Asian nations that would probably honestly not get the same attention in the United States if it weren't for that memeability shining an incredible light on their talented drag.
And I think there's media studies and media theory work to be done on the moments in these reality shows where they drop into their own languages. And where you as the viewer have to accept that You're just not hearing it. It's one of the things I really love about a show that we're going to talk about later in the episode, Monarch. Monarch is it's international and multilingual and multicultural.
You
but
hear
it
that,
is,
Citadel? We're coming for you.
but it is, an English language program. The primary language spoken is English, but there are a lot of times where, for instance, Japanese characters are speaking in Japanese unsubtitled, or the subtitles say speaking in Japanese. They don't tell you what they're saying because the point is not to understand every word, but to get a vibe of the fact that, like, this is happening to the universality of Godzilla attacks is for everybody, and you don't need to understand every word somebody is saying to understand that they are freaking out because there's a giant monster coming to eat you all. And in its own way, it's the same thing with Drag Race. When you get deep into Philippines, you don't need to know exactly what the queen is saying. She's crying because she just got eliminated, and she should what?
Well, you were right, though, that so many of these international seasons do have kind of like a sense of like Tagalog, bitch, Tagalog, win, Tagalog, sir.
Wig.
And I'm like, that's it. That's it. She's speaking away, where the carrying of those words in the conversation does so much to express the idea. It's a really beautiful way that we are finding kind of common cultural ground through Drag Race. And to that, I want to say, not my favorite of all of the series we're going to talk about. For everybody, let's just give it a quick sound off. My international hero series is definitely Australia. Down Under, that's where my heart lies. I love Down Under so much. So sad we're not talking about it today. Does anybody else have an international fave that's not represented on this list?
It's a close tie between Germany and Mexico right now.
I love that.
For me personally, it's probably UK. But when I get around to watching España, I know I'm going to go gaga wild from the things I've heard about it.
Kevo, Kevo, do you have a favorite international?
I am probably overall in the same direction as you, where I do generally favor Australia, but I wish that I could favor UK. But at 5 seasons, it's not really always impressing me in the best ways, and that's frustrating. Plus, the clone hybrid of Carson and Ross is adorable. That little ginger prince. Always love seeing him.
Yeah,
Reese.
when they copied the
Them?
but that's the thing, because we have the same thing over in the UK. But when they copied the Golden Girls over to the UK, they at least had the decency to call it Brighton Bells. I mean, legitimately, over in the UK, Alan Carr and Graham Norton really kind of play such a note for note same sort of thing, where that kind of brand of comedy that stays under what Rue wants it to be stays there, which is where I feel like Canada is so different. Canada is the spin-off that barely acknowledges the original anymore. I think they wish they could call it something else. I really do, because it's such a
great Canadian drag competition.
Truly. So let's dive in. This is, and I think Jonah said it the best. Jonah, so I'm just going to quote you because I don't want to, put you on the spot and have you remember what you said verbatim. But something you said, if you would, care to expand on it, is you're going to miss the cast, but not the season. And I really agree.
I think season 5, even from the first episode, I think all the way to the end, has probably one of the most stellar casts that we've really seen in a while across drag franchises. I was so enamored and charmed by all of these queens who came on the show to showcase us their talent. Charisma, uniqueness, nerve as well. You want to throw all of those in there. However, I think what started really high the season started to really kind of dip by a couple of weird production choices. It really felt like Ginger was dominating in a way where they didn't want to like make her too early of a front runner, but they kind of did that and they didn't really edit it that way. And then they were kind of scrambling where she was doing really well in these later challenges and not really giving wins. Granted, on UK, the wins mean way less than they do on any other season. So ultimately, it doesn't really matter. It was just a lot of weird editing choices for me. I also felt like there was a little bit of, plot armor a little bit here and there. That happens every season. It's RuPaul's show. RuPaul picks who she wants to win. It's RuPaul picks who she likes the best. That's the way the show works. There is no integrity. That's not a thing on a reality show like this. So
You heard it here, guys. RuPaul has no integrity. What the frack?
It was also really weird because I was certain Banksy was a top 4 girl. I was certain Banksy was a top 3 girl. Not really even so much because I was like, I think she should be. I liked her a lot. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed her a lot. But looking at the elements of the show and the response to her, especially runway looks, but also how she was doing in the competition, I really was like, oh, Rue really loves her. Like when she came out in the handkerchief look, I was like, that's one of those things that Rue just, and the way she responded to it, I was like, I think she really just sealed the deal. And then like 2 episodes later, she is unceremoniously gone.
Yeah, it turned out there was no interest at this Banksy.
That's better than a Banksy joke. But I, at the same time, sat through the whole thing saying, okay, Dee Dee is not winning any challenges. She's not doing especially well at them either. She is wearing, and this is one thing where I'm just like, I think I may not be ingrained enough in the culture to be able to make this thing, but I really think the full breastplate where you then can see the neckline and you look like an articulated doll is horrifying. This look right here on screen right now with a choker covering the line, I totally like a lot. But her constant use of the breastplate, it really shocked me that, like, Dusty Ray Bottoms in episode 1, Michelle Visage is like, if I see these dots again, I'm going to murder you myself.
When she's like, I don't know if you know. Wait, was Dusty Ray American?
Yes.
I couldn't remember it. Like I said, I watched 603 seasons this year. It was like, no, this is my shtick. You put me here because of my dots.
Yeah.
And Michelle was like, I did not put you here for no dots.
I didn't put you out of this world and I cannot take you out of it. I didn't put you into this world. Yeah, anyway. Dee Dee to me was so underwhelming as a performer on the show. I think she's really cool and great, and I can imagine why she would put on a really good show. I would be super psyched if I found out she was at my World of Wonder date or Work the World date, but I don't think she performed very well on any metric in the show, and she made it to top 4. What?
I mean, she did well in a design challenge. But to your point, where a lot more of the challenges in the UK are performance-based, acting, comedy. It's the bread and butter of the culture from what I'm understanding, and it's what they kind of expect a lot of these queens to do, and a lot of challenges are geared toward that. Dee Dee, I think part of the problem is Dee Dee is very young and really doesn't have a lot of kind of that experience because it's not really what she does. And I think there was also a little bit of a confidence issue where I think she doubted herself a little bit and kind of took herself out really kind of before the challenge started. And we kind of saw with the roast, she was very funny. She had jokes that weren't the best, but that's every roast. That's not, there are seasoned comedians who don't do the best at roasts. That's just how things work.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of liken it to something that I think we kind of skirt around and we always find a new fun way to say it. And I think this episode for me, it's Kelly Clarkson is a phenomenal host, musician, singer. She's a philanthropist. You guys hear that? She's a full-on philanthropist. But she, I don't think, would thrive at Nick Arcade. I wonder about her performance in an episode of Global Guts. Yes, she won American Idol, because American Idol was designed for a 20 to 30-year-old performance-based, capable person to win. But Global Guts is designed for a 13-year-old. So everything is designed for like a 5'7" body that weighs 102 pounds because, you still have those avian bones. Like, it's not the same thing. And Dee Dee can be a Kelly Clarkson if the competition were American Idol. But if you put her on Global Guts, it's not going to work. And the same is true of somebody who would come in first on an episode of Guts and probably would not rock a full season of American Idol. It's never a knock on these people's talent, but rather acknowledging the quality of the venue for their ability.
Yeah, I think you nailed that. And I think I felt so out of sync with production and editing and just the story of this season. At the end of the day, I kind of appreciate the Caramel storyline. I kind of appreciate the idea that, like, you can come in with all the confidence in the world, but maybe just not hit it. But I felt like there was a missing piece of acknowledging that, like, there was a disconnect. We kind of got there more towards the end, but I just sort of felt more that they set this poor woman up for failure, and then just kind of the storyline was like, "Oop, she sucks."
It was like, what if we just made the "Life Isn't Fair" gif like someone's story?
Yeah,
it's just she was my front runner. I loved her so much. It was awesome.
She was really fantastic, but she didn't perform well.
No.
But I feel like there was a lot of like I still, Jonah, you have some really good insight on why Dee Dee didn't perform well. My problem really is that the show was like, she's actually doing great. That's why she made it to top 4, and I just don't think that was true.
So Dee Dee, I think kind of struggled a little bit more with the challenges, like I said. But she was kind of really nailing the lip syncs, and there was just kind of a point where it's like, I guess we kind of have to reward her. However, they probably really could have edited. What I guess made me more upset is I think if Dee Dee had gone home, the makeover challenge, even though I don't think she really did bad, arguably, but at that point they're also just splitting hairs. It also, you can edit, because Kate Butch kept up with her the best that Kate Butch could have in that lip sync. It's not like Dee Dee walked the floor, surfing the floor with her taint around, doing splits around her.
It wasn't a tricycle versus a motorcycle. It was at bare minimum like one of those street legal motorbikes that people use for deliveries in cities.
But production was so defensive of who they, at that point in the competition, knew who the top 3 were going to be. Because at that point they knew it was going to be Tamara, Michael, and Ginger. They just had to make it convincing.
Please don't say her name twice more, because if you do, she'll appear and go in our cameras. Please be careful.
They had that in mind, and Dee Dee didn't really threaten that, because Dee Dee had been in the bottom a lot, really wasn't like nailing challenges in a way where it's like, oh, she was in the top a lot, maybe didn't get wins, but she was still doing consistently well. Dee Dee doesn't put a threat to that, and you can conceivably cut Dee Dee at the top 4 a lot easier than you can Kate Butch, who up until that point was doing pretty well and was on this really steady incline, which also someone pointed out for people who also watched Canada season 3, Kate Butch and Vivian Vanderpuss have literally the exact same track record, almost the exact same storyline as well. Safe, top, win, cut. And it was a little bit harder for them to have that conceivable top 3, especially when they know, like, oh, we're doing a roast next. Expectedly, Kate's going to do well in that. Though that's also to be seen. Roast comedy is a very specific type of comedy. And this is true of any comedy. Just because somebody can be comedic doesn't necessarily mean that comedy is going to translate to something like roast, something like stand-up, something like improv, something like physical comedy. There's many different types of comedy. People can be funny in their own different way, but not always are those skills in one type of comedy going to be transferable to another. Who knows if Kate would have done very well and would have threatened their plans of who they want in the top 3. And that's where I think the problem of Drag Race lies in. Instead of adapting a little bit to the flow of oh, okay, these people are doing a little bit better than expected. We were kind of counting them out. Let's see what we can do to give them kind of a storyline now. Kind of what they did with Ginger Johnson. I don't think they expected Ginger to be a front runner in the top, but she was doing so well that they didn't know what to do. And so Ginger kind of has this little bit of a weird edit where they're pretending she's not doing like dominating in the way that she actually is.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I'm so glad you brought up Ginger because because we have so much Drag Race to talk about. We got to get to winners, man. Ginger almost feels like they were ready to edit her out of the season, not because she actually had any drama. I'm not, not Jacques, just like she watches like they were ready to cut her, and then all of a sudden she started winning, and they had no idea what to do. I don't think she has a satisfying edit. I don't think Caramel does. That's one of the reasons that I tended to stay away from reality shows for the most part. You can't control the ending as much as the producers want. When somebody storms off, they're gone. And, I get this mental image of, anytime we've had a queen go, I'm quitting, I'm not doing this anymore, and then just leaving, maybe saying Michelle Visage is so mean. You get a sort of sense of the trajectory they want, but I do not think Ginger was their goal winner. I think it was Michael. I think they wanted a Caramel Tamara final 2 or top 3. They love a good drag out on something like that. So when Caramel and Tamara didn't play the game, I wonder how they felt ultimately. That said, great girls. For me, very happy that Ginger won for Ginger, but Michael also.
I think the feeling that Ginger's win is a surprise speaks a lot to the joke that I've mentioned a few times on air since it happened, where during the library session, one of the girls read Ginger as being mistakenly misdirected from the pit crew, like that was an insult. And like, that's not an insult. The pit crew guys are hot. And that speaks a lot to the idea that, Ginger Johnson was never talentless. She was always doing fine, but we were fed this perception that she was doing more poorly than she actually was. And I don't know, if that lies in the producers underestimating her originally and not being prepared for her needing more of a winner edit until it was too late, or intentional misdirect. I don't know. It definitely was very odd.
The only thing I would maybe, and I will give credit for that, she made 99% of her own garments. That is incredibly hard. She knows that she has a great silhouette. She knows what she wants to do. Some of the looks weren't my favorite, but that changes. You can buy new outfits. You can have a better eye for design by people saying, hey, when you're on television, people are looking at you. People whose critiques that you can take seriously, who have credit, you can look at it and be like, hey, what would you do different? The look department I've never really worried about with a queen, because that's always something that you can buy taste. You can find someone to buy you taste for you. That's not.
And so many queens' looks change after Drag Race dramatically in really positive ways.
Something that Kevo said, that it's almost this intentional misdirect. During this episode, they go through the finale, which I will say, a pretty great music video. Everybody did pretty good. Nobody was a stinker. Nobody really did bad. So props to all of them. I want to give the biggest props. Tamara kind of destroyed them. Tamara did eat them.
I mean, it was one of those things where it was like, it would have been kinder if they just focused on Tamara and left everybody else out, because instead she spanked them.
She Spanky Jackson them. I props to also Michael too. Michael is a pretty good dancer. Was really able to keep up. But truly, I would love to see Tamara dance with someone like Sasha Colby. Tamara really did come alive. But I don't think that this finale performance was kind of just enough to justify her conceivably winning. But something that was said during this episode was, after the deliberations, RuPaul said about Ginger Johnson, she has a great future ahead of her. And that is such a weird thing to say for somebody who you have in serious contention for the crown, it's
Yes.
almost like that's something where when that was said, my first thought was, oh, Michael's going to win.
Yes.
That's something you would say about your winner. They have
Yes.
a bright future ahead of them. That's
it's almost like mocking, because like I know that Ginger has a bright future ahead of them because I'm in charge of it. Like, that's weird. That is, I really agree, such a weird thing.
It's such a runner-up thing to say.
It is a runner-up.
It's the winner.
And it's part of why I feel like the show did like a small disservice to Ginger, to be like, no, give us the confidence that you see her as a winner. She's clearly doing the best overall against everybody. That's amazing. Like, she's very talented and like across the board, very well-rounded. Like, make her seem like a threat. I don't understand what the show was really doing, especially the finale. Going into it, I was like, oh, I think Michael won, especially with that comment from Rue. It's just a runner-up comment. And to say that about your winner, or to even leave it in, was very weird.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, it's fine to say it.
Yeah.
And maybe at the time, Rue thought that they would end up crowning Michael, but then, after the show had ran, they saw that Michael wasn't necessarily the more popular character, and she ended up choosing to submit the tape with Ginger winning, because that's what happens, as we all know. So then the comment being in there, but then, at some point you would have to think, that's a little weird. I probably either A, shouldn't say that, or B, we should edit that out.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, I don't know. I feel like we just got so lost in the weeds about midway through this season. It really, in good and bad ways, it didn't matter who won. In good ways, I think more for the queens, because they were all pretty great. And everybody, I think, responded to them really well. I think, they were all so strong in their talents. As you guys mentioned, like, it's not the best thing in the world for Tamara, who was clearly the least likely to win, to do the best in the challenge of the week. But that is this is her area to shine. This is a challenge where she shines. She did not shine in the comedy challenges, despite the lies that they kept telling, where they were like, I can't believe how funny your weird Mrs. Doubtfire choices were.
I actually, can I comment on that for a minute?
What?
Anybody who's ever been a boss or had this kind of boss knows when the boss does not take the job seriously, the job does not work. Anybody who's ever been a first-time manager that's more concerned with being liked than right learns the mistake and makes the other decision the next time. But I think in a lot of ways, this season represents the height of Rue and Michelle's Fun Girls Club. They did not, in my opinion, what the fuck do I know? I am not a multimillionaire who...
This is what it appears like to you as a viewer.
It seems like Rue and Michelle wanted to pick the things they find funny, that it's really not hard to go online and see aren't the things that fans find funny. And they praised those things. Like, the wheels came off and it was like the Emperor had no tires. It was just insane that the bus kept running.
And so, Ginger would do really well in comedy challenges. Michael would tend to do really well in big theatrical performances. And even going back to when it was a top 4, Dee Dee slayed every lip sync. So it wasn't like, they all did really well. It wasn't, there wasn't a clear winner. And there wasn't anybody who it was like, this person is so talentless, why are they here at all? But for production, they never found a storyline. They never found a consistent storyline, even midway through, because it's very clear that the storylines they started with, they lost entirely. And then midway through, they didn't really find organic ways to pick up what was there and run it through to the finale. They definitely midway through realized that Ginger was going to be a contender for the crown, but then that just started weird editing choices. And the same thing, I think they thought the Tamara caramel thing, I don't necessarily think they thought Tamara was going to make it all the way. I think they thought it was going to be kind of a sugar and spice thing, where how can you not have the two roommates fighting it out until one of them leaves? And then Tamara actually wound up really tickling Rue. So then it's like a scramble to find the storylines. Michael, I don't understand what happened with Michael. I really do think Michael is talented, but I don't feel like that was what I saw on the show. I don't know. It was just weird. And I don't blame Michael for that. I really do blame, I just think, a lot lack of through lines. So it was a lack of through lines for everybody. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter who won for the girls because as Jonah said at the top of the episode, I love them all. Like didn't love the season, but loved all the girls of the season. And I think when a season doesn't go quite right, I would rather that be the way that it not go quite right. The first time I think the entire fan community experienced it was season 7 of US Drag Race. Those girls remain some of the best, most iconic girls, but I think we were all confused as to why the season was so bad. And it took like 2 years. It took things like Trixie and Katya starting to do and starting to see the girls in other venues for us to all realize it wasn't a bad season with bad girls. It was a badly produced season with incredible girls. And now I think we're a lot more able, like as a fandom, to sort those two out. And there are definitely seasons where it is in fact the girls that are duds, as much as I love them. Not necessarily their fault. Sometimes it's just bad group chemistry, but more often than not, the problem is that production has kind of failed them. And I think this is one of those.
And to talk also to kind of add on that, this was a season of like RuPaul's Best Friend Race. This was I talked about it throughout the season as we were covering it. Any drama was squashed immediately at the beginning of the next episode or at the end of that episode. Nothing carried through. There was no tension ever that carried on to the next episode. I think I said this last week or maybe 2 weeks ago that this was, instead of being serial, was being episodic. We were kind of just watching, like, nothing happened the last week, so you don't need to watch what happened last week to go into this week. And I think where we kind of saw that a little bit of that problem season 9, where they were RuPaul's Best Friend Race, and then they told them at the reunion, no, you guys need to like amp it up. Like you need to give us something, give us stuff to work with. And that is one of the best reunions ever produced across Drag Race, truly. And a lot of these international seasons don't really get that. They have like 5 minutes, and we kind of got that with the roast, but it was just awkward drama that felt like it came out of nowhere, where Vicky was upset with Dee Dee. It just felt weird as opposed to entertaining or anything of the sort.
I think that what we're talking about really also speaks to something that we've spoken about on the show before, that we've talked about it as a group, that I was saying to Nico as we were catching up for this broadcast, which is, it's not that the girls aren't great. It's that this specific competition is not always for and does not always cater to the full talents of every girl that wants to be on RuPaul's Drag Race. It's that thing where not every girl can sing. Not every girl is a comedian. Not every girl is a seamstress. And, if this was just a beauty pageant, there are some girls that would excel so much better than they do when they have to, talk. And I think it speaks to the need for diversity of drag content, where we're going to be talking later about Glam Slam, which is exactly that. It's a diversity of drag content where we are seeing a different level and form and concentration of competition. And I feel like if we started seeing more things like that, different girls that could excel better in different ways rather than across the RuPaul gamut, we'd be able to see them shine better. Because, I put that comment up for a reason, which is what we always say. It's RuPaul's Drag Race. This competition is what RuPaul wants you to be good at. Nico made a point earlier saying she wants you to be able to do the things that she did to make it in this industry. And that makes sense. That makes it RuPaul's competition. But then it's not just an ordinary beauty pageant. And I think some drag queens might do better at a more generalized beauty pageant, and it would be a lot of fun to see them in those arenas of competition as well.
And I think that's one of the reasons that I think Canada being so different than the other seasons is so significant, Number one, I just want to praise Canada because I feel also it's the opposite of South Park. Praise Canada. There are more unique accents on Canada's Drag Race than I think any other version of Drag Race that I watch, which it definitely means all the English speaking ones, right? And what that means to me is that there are more cultures represented on Drag Race Canada, right? And I say unique accents because I'm not here to hear that a Flatbush accent is that different from anything else in the same borough. You know what I mean? So, let's be reasonable about this. Number one, I definitely cannot get out of my head that the cast of this show is Brooke Lamb Heights singing Gorecki. If I should drag this very moment. And it's like all I ever hear. It's a very funny joke if you like weird 2000s music. Anyway, so I love this. This season is full of the weirdest people. Let me tell you how much I love Denim. I love Kitten. But girlfriend experience. Baby girl. You're hot. You're great. You're the best kind of trashy. But sweetie, what the fuck was going on? Your performance this season, before when you were saying that UK kind of lost its way and had to reformat, I thought to myself, even Heroes season 2 had Kristen Bell. You know what I mean? And girlfriend experience, you were prepared for UK season 5 where the production wasn't sure what to do with you, not Canada's Drag Race season 4 where every one of these girls is ready for their trading card. Like, it's wild.
I am starting to wonder if the show does not properly prepare trans contestants or vet them for where they are in life to be able to do the show, offer them access to the tools that they're going to need to succeed. I'm saying that now because we specifically have Caramel, who I believe had just started her transition and, who we haven't seen. And the rumor is that's because of COVID, but she was not there for the end of the season for whatever reason. Who very clearly has a ton of talent and confidence, but didn't do that well. And I wonder sort of where that came from. Girlfriend experience, a little less, do I wonder, but I still, she made some comments and there were some things said that just led me to wonder if the production machine around this franchise doesn't necessarily know how to properly care for trans queens. If that is the case, I hope it gets addressed. I was bummed when they started, choreograph. Nobody can sing on these challenges. That's fine. If you want to break my heart, you can't do that. Don't hurt me, no. Bless the auto-tune gods that get a hold of these tracks. They really do make them listenable. And it is proof that any of us can make a dance track if we have the right tools in front of us. What true. Really bummed me out was that she was not prepared to dance at all. And it sucked because she also had a team leader who was not prepared to have teammates that weren't just immediately serving. But, she unfortunately, it's funny because I almost never notice when a queen is doing badly in the actual song. They have to flash back later and show me them screwing up. I always miss it. I always think they're all doing great.
Canada,
Immediately
spelled with all 4s for the 4th season of Drag Race. Kevo, I'm dead. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I only wish that there was a 4th A.
We'll figure out a way to get one in there. Immediately I could see that girlfriend experience was not doing well. In the final product, her dancing was not good. And that was super unfortunate because ultimately, she couldn't sing, she couldn't dance, her drag, her drag is actually, I mean, like, she can really serve a look, but it is a very specific type of look. And I had some concerns about diversity, but I just thought she was so magnetic, so sexy, so cool. And just this wound up being a bad venue for her. But like the bummer of the whole thing was that, yeah, she was probably the right person to go home this week.
She was a Kevin Smith film character in a John Hughes film.
Yeah.
She was a little too raw and a little too like, I mean this with love. Like,
We're talking
Dirty
girlfriend
girl.
experience, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
girlfriend experience.
Okay, just want to make
She was a
sure.
little too dirty girl. She was a little too the naughty good time. I want to have that good time. I love that good time. But
A little
like,
too Ghost World, a little too Welcome to the Dollhouse.
oh my god, which just got a 4K release.
Oh,
I'm not going to shriek the F slur right now, but it is something my sister and I scream at each other all the time.
As a kid, I thought Welcome to the Dollhouse was what you aspire to be.
Yeah. And I, as an adult, I continue to think that.
Kind of, sort of. I'm so
that's
glad
like
we found each other.
25% of my notes for our upcoming Scream project have to do with Heather Matarazzo showing up for 10 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
You know, Girlfriend Experience really gave me hyperpop girly. Like, I really think her, you know, she reminds me of Slater. She reminds me of so many
She kinda looks
iconic
like Poppy.
Yeah, I see that too.
She looks like she listens to a lot of Slater Kinney.
There's that as well. She gives me, you know, diva. She gives me pop star. She just wasn't able to do it on Canada's Drag Race. But you know, she can't sing that well, but I hope she finds a great producer that wants to work with her. And, you know, call A.G. Cook immediately. I think.
Call
I thought
me.
she had one of the better vocal performances, but it felt like
yeah.
she, because that, as she brought up, it's part of her dysphoria. It was a little reserved, and that's why.
Right.
yeah.
We'll get into a little bit more, but I think Reeve was probably the best musical producer that they've ever had on the show ever.
Yeah.
Get into it right now.
Oh, hold on, I want to talk about Girlfriend, and then we can jump into Reeve.
Isn't it Rev?
Rev, sorry. Sorry, Rev. I just discovered you from this episode, and I love you, so forgive
That
me.
tongue song was sick as shit. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Talk Girlfriend before I take over.
But this was a little bit about this episode. It felt like there was, and it's also happened last episode, a lot of people saying, well, this isn't what I do. This isn't what I normally do. This is all a new experience for me. I'm really a little bit out of my depth. To which I want to say, you know what the show, I kind of say this a lot, but you know what the show asks you for. You know what they're going to ask you to be able to sew something. The basic challenges. You're going to have to sew something. You're going to ask to do some kind of improv. You're going to ask, you might not have to do a girl group challenge. That doesn't always happen. But even if you make it to the finale, you're going to have to sing. You're going to have to write lyrics and do something. So there's going to be a vocal performance. And that's probably about it. Makeover, blah, 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 whatever. So it felt a little weird that there was a lot of, this is not really normally what I do. Then what, as a genuine question, what did you expect to happen on Drag Race that they weren't going to ask you to do? These are the fundamentals they ask of every queen that's ever auditioned to ever be on the show. You should be able to do X, Y, and Z. So I was a little concerned and weirded out of hearing a lot of that this episode. This is not normally what I do, which is fine. All drag is valid. Do what you want to do. How your gigs go. Do whatever. That's not what I'm here to judge or critique. I'm going to pull the other show, Dragula. I'm going to pull from them. Drag is art is subjective. I'm going to judge your drag on how you applied it to the challenge of this show. It just felt a little weird that part of your drag isn't part of the skills that they always ask for. Not to say you have to be I'm not asking you to be Alyssa Edwards. I'm not asking you to be Bianca Del Rio when it comes to these specific type of challenges. But like, understand, like, okay, they're going to ask me to do this. Do I feel confident enough to do it? How do I prepare myself for it when I'm going to be asked to do this? So I was a little bit bummed that she went home this week. Her story I thought was actually very fascinating, and we were kind of just getting like a little bit into it. We were getting the kernels out, and she's kind of someone who, as TK said, she is kind of magnetic. Where I kind of want to be like, go to her show, go to a bar with her, and just kind of be like, "Girls, tell me everything. Just let me have it. I just want to hear it." She, I think, has this very interesting point of view that I really wanted to explore more. I am a little bit bummed that we're not going to get to see more of her. So,
yeah,
love you, girl. Anyway, to what we were talking about before with Rev. What's her name?
Rev.
Rev. From the beginning, Rev gave some of the most positive, actual good advice and critiques. Was really producing well, and like what they should add, what they should cut, keeping them on beat, like telling them like, no, you got this. She was very encouraging. She like really knew her stuff, and it was so. Not to say Michelle ever does a bad job, and Michelle has a very beautiful voice, but to see someone really kind of nurture every single one there and be like, no, you got this, you can do it, give it to me. She had a compliment for pretty much everyone. I think there was, to be fair, I'm sure they cut it out for story reasons. I think they cut out Kiki Cole. Right? I think she was the only person that she didn't specifically say something positive to in the context of what they showed. I'm sure she said very positive things to her while they were recording it and getting it all together. But like even to Girlfriend, she was like, do you know how fabulous of a lyricist you are? Like how you killed it? Like just give it to me 50% more and you got this. And like that's when I was like, it's really kind of amazing when you see one of these mentors, these people I hire to come on the show, kind of elevate these girls, these queens, these performers to like be the best. We didn't talk about it, but really, like the same thing happened in the finale of UK, where the dance instructor like really worked with each of the queens and was like, "No, lean into your strengths. What makes you you? Let's do that." And instead of kind of doing the Todrick, like I'm gonna give you 50 beats per second, and if you don't hit them, you're gonna be in the bottom kind of vibes.
It's that scene from Superstore where Mateo goes, they were just like wham, bam, shablam, shablam. Todrick wants you to just shablam with him. But speaking of Rev and Rev's notes, I do want to comment on one of the things that we are talking about as a through line for this whole episode. When Michelle gives her notes, she's sort of like, you got to have levels. And when I'm thinking about levels, I'm kind of thinking about, and I mean this like, really realistically, where Michelle's coming from is like an OnlyFans model. If your first post is the thing that everybody's coming just to see, they can just see the one thing they want to see that one time, they're done. They're going to unsubscribe and they're out. But if you give levels and layers, and there's so many posts, and that kind of post is every now and then, you can keep people coming to this brand. And, Michelle goes to this school of levels and layers of performance. But what she doesn't really think about as somebody who's conceiving a record, as somebody who's conceiving individual tracks, she's not thinking about the fact that these people have 22 seconds to make it or not. And they don't have room. They don't have the time for the dynamics. So when Rev goes, that was great. If you think you've gone too far, you haven't gone far enough. You need to turn it up. She's thinking like somebody with 22 seconds, not like somebody with a career. And that's the difference that a lot of these girls need to hear. You're not always crafting a career. You need to get to next episode. Worry about the career next month. That's crazy talk.
I get you.
So that's where I was coming from. I love that my precious kitten didn't leave. I'm in love with Kitten. I love him so much. Oh my God. But just generally because he's a survivor. Look how strong his mind is. Like he is, he's very handsome. Don't get me wrong. And like, my whole bit, he likes the old guys, but like, I think Kitten represents something that I really identify with. At 37, I get told that I'm 100 and like, I'm too old to be alive kind of, sort of. And, Kitten's 57 and still fucking glorious. And like, that's amazing and killing it on an internationally recognized superstar performance show. And that dance number was 100% Brenda Lee crap. And I loved every campy second of it. She would have been better with a hula hoop. That's the level of camp it was. I just can't.
The Canadian Kasha Davis.
Oh, and Aurora is so perfect. She is.
Props to her. Can we talk about the winner of this episode, Aurora? Who,
yes, just what a perfect competitor for this.
It's again, we see this a lot with Drag Race, but when you see somebody who's in their element, who knows what they're doing, this
exactly
is like their bread and butter. Like it's a very magical kind of special kind of moment of being like, oh, this is what they do, and you know why this is what they do. She really kind of killed it. I will say, Nico and I talked about this earlier. The Heartbeat song is the better song. It
had
was
the better
production,
more magical positivity. Yes.
So it was already going into it, the Heartbreak song, which is already was the worst song, and already had the word, like, already wasn't a good performance to begin with. I shouldn't say that. Everybody worked hard. They did well, especially someone like Amy Yonsei Chanel, who kind of was the star of her group. It even with all that, Aurora really, like, that was the pop girl. That was her fantasy. She gave it to us. She looked great on the runway.
She gave us
Was
Lady
really,
Bad Bunny,
really,
so she was pretty pussy.
really enamored and charmed by her this episode. She has this very positive, like almost joyous, but didn't feel like at 100. As Nico said, there were levels to it, and I really was like, nope, that is the winner of this episode, 100%.
TK, how did you feel about these musical numbers? I mean, I'll be honest, a little for me, it was kind of like, what if all of the girls that had ever been on Saved by the Bell had to do competitive, like, performance numbers at the max?
I'm so excited.
I'm so friends forever, right?
I'm
You
so
know,
everyone
excited
remembers
for my
that.
caffeine pills.
But no one ever does put your mind to it. Go
Yeah,
for it.
there you go,
gotta break
Cavo.
a sweat. Rock it. Yeah.
I love
Anyway.
it.
The
Oh,
best
I like that you
song.
did that rock and roll part, because
Thank you,
now
T.
I think that Olivia Rodrigo should call up the Saved by the Bell people and be like, see, they said rock and roll, so I think Paramore should have to pay for this one. So actually, to
You're so
Olivia
weird.
Rodrigo's enormous credit, she has always been like, no, if it's there, it's there. I'm not going to be an idiot and fight this. So, I was just making a silly joke about how much money Paramore makes off of Olivia Rodrigo records. So TK, how did you feel about these performances? Was it Paramore or Olivia Rodrigo for you?
It was probably firmly in between, because I don't like the Olivia Rodrigo song and I do love the Paramore song, and I didn't love or hate these. If for one thing I thought it was an interesting twist that I'm still not settled on whether or not I liked it, that it was the same song, like BMX Bitches, they both did the same song. They did,
Yeah.
like, there's so many group challenge, UK Hun, same song. But
As BMX.
Can I make the argument for the best case scenario that they did that?
yeah,
UK season 3 BDE, because it was two different genres of songs. You had the
Yeah.
typical hyper, many keep it upbeat but a lot of BPM, versus the slower, BD, which
Yep.
I can I say a hot take that I like the slower version way more than I like the faster version.
I think that's reasonable.
Um,
Ik My Yum, same thing, from season 5 of UK, same song both times. The fact that this was the same song with a significant lyric change that would sort of change the vibe a little bit, but that they were like, well, I'm upset that we got Heartbreak. What are you upset about? It's the same song.
But it's not. The production was slightly different in a way that, like, it doesn't sound like a song about heartbreak. So the chorus sounds totally discongruent with the verse tone.
I love you very much. You're about to say a lot of stuff that I don't believe anybody who was on that set understood, or
they'd hear it and not know why.
I maybe,
Right.
but
They don't know why, and they think it's witchcraft, and
maybe.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this was a perfectly standard Drag Race challenge, and people performed in ways that were revelatory, but in most cases not especially controversial or dare I say interesting. So far, everybody who I find interesting is interesting on their own, and the challenges aren't really creating any surprise moments for me. That Kitten did so well in QV She, not really a surprise. Yeah, so not a bad thing at all, but just I'm waiting for that moment where the challenge really reveals something about somebody that I would not have seen before. Particularly, like, I'm waiting for Melinda Varga to pop out of her specific box that she has herself in.
It's actually a coffin, and she sleeps in it with her spell book.
It is not a bad box. It is an opulent coffin if it is one.
Oh,
but,
no, I'm in love with her. I mean,
Opulent.
look at her. I mean, I think...
I just the makeup is driving me a little insane, and I'm just really hoping that
she's a really handsome man. Why does she keep making herself look like a nightmarish woman?
I truly do not know. But yeah, I mean, like this was a really solid episode, but probably one that I won't be thinking about a lot more after this.
So Jonah, I'm so sorry, Kevo. You hit me with your final
I just
thought.
said yeah.
So, okay, then Jonah, you hit me with your final. Well, someone hit me. So Jonah,
Hit me!
Oh, well, we didn't talk about it. This was a bad mini challenge.
Nightmarish, shameful, embarrassing.
I get something that RuPaul says a lot, and when going on Drag Race, I don't think you realize it. You're gonna have to do very silly, dumb things. You're going to do things that you might quite think are cringy, are weird, are embarrassing, whatever. You got to just kind of lead into it. You kind of just got to go for it. It's know that like nobody's going to be laughing at you. Everybody will be laughing with you if you give them that credit. I promise you that. And I think this mini challenge kind of showed a lot of queens having that fear of letting go and just being silly and dumb. And
hashtag brand fear. Seriously.
It's one of those things where Drag Race is going to ask you to do very silly, dumb things. You have to be able to roll with it. You have to be able to have that self-confidence in yourself saying, no, they're going to be laughing with me. No, they're going to be laughing with me. And just kind of go for it. So I was a little, like I said at the beginning of this, I was a little concerned with the self-confidence that a couple of queens were showcasing of like, I don't do this. I'm just kind of giving up immediately. We'll see how that plays out throughout the season. But happy for the winner. And I will say, if she really wanted to make waves and make a strategic choice, she would have saved Girlfriend.
Yeah.
I completely
agree. That was
agree.
going to be my final thought.
But I think that wouldn't have been to Girlfriend's benefit.
No, I mean, really, Girlfriend was just not cut out for this. She is a very specific kind of rock your world. But the things she's best at cannot be filmed and shown on public television. So
I also think it is really interesting that we have now seen eliminated the first person to have won the Golden Beaver. So that little hump has been conquered.
yeah, number one, I'm sure the Girlfriend experience would love being referred to as a hump. And number two,
I thought so.
I think it's meant to be like the golden power of Vito from Big Brother, the golden power of Beaver, the golden Vito, the golden Beaver. It's about as clever as Jeffrey Boyer's Chapman. So, my final thoughts on this, this season is great. I love these queens. They are great. Brooke has looked her best all season. Brad kind of goes on my list of, he was on the Real Friends of WeHo, so it's actually a traitorous thing to say he's so hot, but he looks great this season. Tracy is such a positive force in what can very often become negative judging. I'm actually just generally really excited about this season, and I just want to thank Canada for giving us this and maple syrup.
And I even want to say, as we are going to transition from this drag program into the next one, where it is just, no, we don't like this co-host, but he is gorgeous, and it's okay. We'll live with it. There are worse people on the planet, probably. I'm really enjoying the season so far. I wasn't wowed by this episode, but I am looking forward to some of the standard challenges for sure, and seeing how those go over.
TK, talk to me about your great buddies to the 2 miles north of you.
No, I mean, you guys have said it all. This is a really solid season. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I really do hate Brad the most. I would take Jeffrey back.
I get that.
Yeah. But Brooke looked absolutely insane. This look was
breathtaking.
borderline problematic.
What? I thought it was A plus plus plus.
I mean, it was really good, but it was so weird.
It was literally.
It looked like what Kimberly Shaw would wear to her wedding to Michael Mancini in season 25.
Yes! And it looks like next week she's dressed up as Queen Elsa from the original Snow Queen. So yeah, interesting looks this year.
Really interesting.
Also, I can't wait to watch Melinda quit next week because that looks fucking
or whatever. Because who knows?
Who knows?
Trash.
But yeah, this is a good season. This is a solid season. Canada brings it to you every year.
Jonah, do you have any last things to say to our great friends to the north?
Be true, strong north, and what? And I will never forget Kendall Jenner saying free instead of fear. That's what I have to say.
Same. I really do have an eats, shoots, leaves relationship with the commas in Brooke's sign-off. For those who don't know the reference, it's a panda walks into a restaurant, he eats, shoots, and leaves. If you put in commas, it's he eats, shoots a weapon, and then leaves the restaurant. But if you leave out the commas, it makes sense. And the panda walks into a restaurant, eats, shoots, and leaves because pandas eats, shoots, and leaves, right? But yeah, I really do wonder how the commas work in that, stay true, north, fierce, strong, draggy, tucked. I can't keep up. But Jonah, I want to thank you so much for being a part of our drag tradition. It would never, ever be a Drag Race finale without you. And it has been so special spending this time with you. Oh my gosh. Grand Slam. Kevo privately messages me.
I was actually going to say, are we not doing Glam Slam?
I queued it up live on air. So it's all good.
This bores me. It's fun. It's fine. It's like, what if a bunch of really fun drunk high schoolers did Wet Hot American Summer Project Runway in their high school gymnasium? It's cute. I love everything about it. It's just dumb.
It's not that it bores me. It's that, it just sort of is what it is. It feels like an extended series-long pilot for something that I think could be a lot better with more production quality put into it. I wouldn't want the episodes to be longer than they are, but I think if it was maybe not filmed in a rec center in a Hell's Kitchen, it could perhaps have a bit more quality to it. But I think I said to you, if I don't have much to say about this show, it's mostly because, it's fine. It is exactly what I want it to be. It's Project Runway meets drag queens that we know and love, all competing against each other. And I think the added bonus of having the jury be other competing queens, I didn't even think that would be an idea. So great addition. This is exactly what we're talking about, where we want diversity of drag content. It's good. It is, a show.
And Kevo, would you just do me a favor and put up the look I need to pay special tribute to? Once upon a time, a mentally unstable person by the name of Pete Milligan reimagined a brilliant idea by Jack Kirby, and it was called Shade the Changing Man. And if you're a Gerard Way fan, at some point you have definitely come in contact with Shade the Changing Girl and Shade the Changing Woman. But when I saw Monet Exchange, opera queen of New York City, standing there in what can only be described as a frock of the madness vest, I said to myself, Mama, somewhere out there, gay-ass Julius Schwartz is thinking to himself, all right, I have made a good world for all of my people. And, that really does bring that Phil Jimenez was on an episode of Dragula, all, seriously closed circuit. Guys...
The thing is, within reason, I will do pretty much whatever you want graphically. And you said, can you put these up together? And I was like, sure. And then you sent me the images, and I was like, no, really, truly, this is uncanny. Absolutely uncanny. If anything, Monet's is just a little bit more the Seuss version.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And if anybody ever wants, this is a really beautiful comic that deals with like gender dysphoria and trans identity 20 years before other comics would ever dare to. A guy by the name of Chris Bacalo, who is responsible for so much of the pop art you think you know is X-Men. It's really this one guy from the 90s. He redesigned this vest, and really progressive comic. So if you ever want to read something that might have inspired some of the queens we love, check it out sometime. All right.
So Glam Slam.
Gotta say, Glam Slam me. Come on.
Grand Slam.
For this episode, these two contestants, I happen to really enjoy both of them. I was really happy. Yuwa is somebody who has a lot of online appeal and a lot online fandom, but Drag Race doesn't seem to really kind of want to do anything with Yuha, which I feel bad for.
Maybe it has to do with the amount of rage she carries.
Yeah, that's why I grabbed this one.
She's small. The smaller people tend to be filled with rage because it's less to disperse it throughout.
Hey!
I'm not wrong. But I will say, bootleg review is very funny and very entertaining. So if you don't watch that, go watch it. Go support your queens. Go support all of them all. Boilerplate here. She's great. I happen to be a fan of Olivia Lux. I kind of think she's an underrated person who makes great TV.
1,000%. She is the LaToya in a family of Janet and Michaels. Is she less talented? No, but is what she is able to bring to the table just an adorable, cute factor that you want to root for? Yes.
It truly for me, what I think not why she won the episode, but when she did win the episode for me, is her having the fabric laid out on the floor, and she's like, the fabric doesn't care what I have up here. The fabric's gonna do what it was. So it's gotta come back to me. What is it trying to say? It's gotta think about it. It was so entertaining. And then you was like, you okay? Let me. She's like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, not that she wasn't having this deep, intricate moment. And slight knock to Rob. He was like, she's so like concentrating on like her fabric. It was very funny, like little word salad where he was trying to say one thing and got the other thing out.
I just want to say about Rob, I could have been heterosexual, and the day I would have gazed upon his chest hair, I would have been gay. He might not have a whole lot to add to what Monet could bring by herself. She does not need a co-host.
Oh, I want that jumpsuit though.
But what he actually, I was about to say, but what he lacks in ability to surpass a vaunted Drag Race contestant, he more than makes up for in an unbelievable fashion, I guess sense, but probably budget.
Really? We're gonna look at this photo and say an unbelievable fashion sense.
No, that's
okay, here you go.
No, I'm gonna say we're gonna look at this photo and say unbelievable.
I love that look. Are you kidding me? I would love to look like the teal Power Ranger at a Power Rangers award banquet. Are you
love looking like the third Mario bro who went missing and they didn't try to find?
Yes.
I'm also not giving this man credit for dressing himself. I'm not giving him credit for dressing himself. Absolutely not.
Anyway, his chest hair is majestic and his clothes are cute. Fuck me, I guess. Fuck my drag.
Fuck my hormones.
Oh. It was a wide smile.
Yeah, there is that. They're not all diamonds. Here you go. That's a little better. Close your mouth.
Oh, I would look so cute in that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And we would each have different days.
Aww. All right. So Jonah, Glam Slam us.
I mean, are we talking about episode 3? Just episode 3?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, 2 and 3, because you've got Lucy versus Jan, which is, I guess, if you need a competition that says we used to try to be passing, this is the most I have repressed parts of my gay self image collection I have ever seen. The only thing these two dudes could do to try to make it seem like they're a little bit straighter is drive very large black SUVs.
The rolled up sleeves. Oh, yeah.
It's me, Lucy LaDuca. I'm not that kind of gay.
I love your Lucy impression. It's so perfect.
I think she's perfect. I'm just being
she's
silly.
she's so perfect.
She's literally
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh, listen. And can I have the camera on me for a second?
Do it.
Just for a second.
Genuinely?
Yes.
Give the boy what he wants.
I am somebody, even from the beginning of season 12, I fully subscribe to the Jantasy. I am fully there. I believe in it. I loved it. I think she was a little bit mistreated on All Star 6. That's how delusional I am. However, when Jan this episode said, the thing I'm most known for is being the seamstress of season 12, I imagined Gigi Good, Jada Essence Hall, and Nikki Doll sitting at home going like this, being like, what? And like their jaws dropping. I'm not saying that, like, they're just kind of looking at each other like, wait, what? Not that Jan is a bad seamstress, as we saw by this episode. I would not feel comfortable saying that on a season with Gigi Good, Jada Essence Hall, and Nikki Doll.
Yeah, I get you. People like to say things, is my only defense of it, especially when they think there is going to be absolutely no repercussions for it.
And to be fair, there really isn't here, so it kind of works out perfectly.
We can kind of say, say what we want, I guess.
What are the hits on these so far?
They're like 200, around like the 100K, like 150K views.
Okay, that's not bad.
No, they're not bad. That's like the core audience of YouTube Drag Race that don't go to watch the lip syncs.
Yeah.
I will say, I love Lucy. Haha. I don't know fully what she was doing. Like, the look itself, I think, is a good look, but it doesn't read disco. You know? I thought she made something very beautiful and very cute, but it doesn't really read disco.
Yeah, it kind of more reads prom. We know someone whose company holiday party was this weekend, and the theme was prom night. Like, this is sort of the looks from their pictures. This is a little bit more Studio 54 disco for sure. And that's certainly one of the interesting things about this as a program and as reality competition. And one of the things that we always balk at and are shocked by is when we see these queens push back against the very format of the program and being like, you told me to do this, but I'm going to kind of do what I want anyway. And so when you see it on this and the person sort of makes whatever they want and then they lose, especially because the episode turnover is so fast, we don't really see it have a lot of time to see them push back against that. So it's just rapid fire entertainment.
The only other thing I really want to add to the discussion of Glam Slam is the opportunity it affords WoW. Something that I can't help but notice is so much of WoW's programming is WoW exclusive. The number of things I didn't know existed until, we had the WoW app. And then I can see why there isn't a whole lot of discussion for a lot of the product online. This is an accessible product. There is nothing so untouchable about this that it would be hard to jump in. There's a reason this was chosen for YouTube over something like, let's say, a film Jimbo wrote while eating shrooms, And that is something that WoW has always really needed, a chance to say we are capable of making product outside of the scope of the expectation of what the WoW app provides. And instead, we can bring something a little bit more mainstream and a little bit more middle America-able. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at this point, am I cutting Jonah off from any programs he talks about?
No.
Okay. Then Jonah, it has been such a blast talking about Drag Race with you. Where can everybody find you online?
You can find me online on, mostly X and Instagram, but any social really at Peak Jonah. That's Peak. And with the advent of this holiday season, I will leave us with one of my favorite quotes from Canada. 'Cause honey, this is Christmas, baby.
Well, we cannot wait to have you back. You are the best, and we love your head to toe teal and yellow, or like aqua and yellow.
Yes, I love that hat.
Oh, and the hat.
Well, this is from TK.
Oh, of course.
I know.
The
He has the
Jubilee
best
hat.
taste. Right. Well, we can't wait to have you back. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to find ourselves over from Drag Race to another show that has 1 trillion seasons. Only these took like 800 years to get out. Doctor Who. You know, when we think about Doctor Who, I think David Tennant and Catherine Tate really are two of the characters that are part of the cultural mindset of the modern identity, right? You know, there's so much that goes into, are you a new Whovian, an old Whovian? But I think culturally, people go, oh yeah, it's the guy with the long face and the British lady that the what? Who are you? You know, like there's an understanding of what it is. And this episode kind of represented something we'd never had before, which really is just the two of them and no one else. I did not care for the Isaac. I wish it had been Isaac Mizrahi. I wish they had gone to a time period where someone dropped something on Isaac Mizrahi's head, but instead we saw Isaac Newton. I really liked this episode. It was goofy. Probably shouldn't have been the second of 3 specials and 3 specials only. But if this had been a 13 episode season, I would have thought this was great. As it was, I still give it an A- B+. But you know, and I even thought the my arms are too long thing was like one of those weird things the doctor says when he's regenerating and then like clicks his teeth and goes, new teeth. Right?
Yeah.
So I thought you could even explain some of it, and then Donna said it, and I was like, oh, it's a psychic infection. About arms? This episode had a lot of things I enjoyed. I don't know. How did you guys feel?
I think you really nailed it with the idea that like this maybe wouldn't have been my first choice for a special of only 3, but at the same time these specials are weird to me because it's like I was always fine. The only thing I ever wanted was for Donna to get her memory back. I hated leaving that, and I always thought that they would do it with Matt Smith. And then I figured since they didn't, I was like, well, they'll obviously do it with Peter Capaldi, who I don't like. So I'll probably miss that one. I know we've already talked about this.
I honestly forgot that you didn't love 12. I just think 12 is so charming. Sorry.
We'll deal with that after the holidays. We're just getting through these specials and Christmas.
Exactly. But you know, I always assumed that Donna would get her memory back. But I never really thought. I thought Day of the Doctor was really cute and fun, and you know, I never was like. I've never thought, you know, Matt Smith is my favorite Doctor, and I've never been like, we got to get him back. We got to do another regeneration where it's Matt Smith. So, you know, I never needed these. The fact that we're getting them is fantastic to me. But if one of them feels like peak series 4 Doctor Who, like peak Doctor and Donna together, it's really great. It's a really great flashback.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily do the most with the limited time they have been allotted to basically give us another Dr. Donna season. But that's okay, because I think maybe that means that we can kind of acknowledge that this isn't necessary. It's a bonus. And it doesn't have to do everything. I sort of want to slap Russell T Davies upside the head a little bit for putting so much stock in his dealing with the Flux season.
How many comments he made, and then it was just sort of
because it sort of felt like that was kind of the only purpose of this episode. Like if this had to exist beyond being a lost series 4 episode, it only exists to acknowledge that Flux happened, and I don't think it did it to such a degree that it was much better than just not bringing it up again like we do with a billion insane things that happen in the Doctor's life that you would think would get brought up again but never do. Like if he's going to talk about anything with Donna of all people, that he was not like, I found River again. That to me, that's insane.
Well, there was something that, as you're talking about this, really came to mind. And when you think about people
And
who
then I
were,
had two things I was waiting on.
oh no, please, by all means, I have very little to add. Kevo, I sent an image for whenever he's able to get it up. It's, I'd really rather Kevo get an opportunity to talk, as he is the Doctor Whoman. But it kind of reminds me of when Neil Gaiman had the opportunity to work with one of the greatest artists of his generation, J.H. Williams, and added to the Sandman universe the Sandman Overture. Those 75 issues of Sandman really say everything you need, and then you can choose to read the 60 issues of The Dreaming and the 75 issues of Lucifer, though I'd skip The Dreaming and read Lucifer if you can help it. But you don't have to. But Overture really is Neil Gaiman coming back after other people wrote for several runs and doing a coda to where he left off. And it's a beautiful way to think about this little extra bonus series.
Yes, I really agree, and I think that is hugely what this is, and that very much leads into exactly what I was going to say. First, I wanted to say on the subject of it feeling like a season, as Tom points out, if they were available, it would have. Russell would have loved to do 12 full episodes of David and Catherine back together, but
Yeah.
they're stars and they got stuff to do. This is the biggest year of David's career in a very long time, between Good Omens, Star Wars, how many other things. So the fact that we got 3 is very cool. I think the fact that then in many ways Russell still was treating it like it was just a regular series, and that these don't feel especially like specials as much as they do feel like just kind of normal episodes, but there's only 3 of them, is a very strange thing. But I really have gotten the sense that, hold on, I'll switch over to the Doctor Who music. I've really gotten the sense from these episodes so far that it's almost like Russell is giving us a pilot or an introduction into what his return to the brand is going to be. This episode very much gave me vibes of Midnight, but if Donna Noble had been in it, because I'm sure one of the things he's heard for 15 years is Midnight is amazing, but Donna's not in it. Midnight is great, but Donna's not in that one. And it's the same thing as I felt like the response to the meta crisis being, we're just going to let it go, is perhaps even something Russell T Davies heard over the last 15 years of, there's so many wibbly wobbly things that you could have just let it go. And he's like, damn, why didn't I think of that? And that to me is what I felt like the tongue-in-cheek male presenting Time Lord thing was, that he as a man felt he didn't think of it. There's just so many things in this that he's doing that I feel like are just getting the TARDIS warm for Shudigatwa when he shows up. It's the little subtle things like the Doctor calling Sir Isaac Newton hot and surprising himself.
Is that who I am now?
Yeah, and Donna saying it was always right under the surface. And frankly, it was, even under showrunners like Stephen Moffat. He wrote 11 and not really 12, but he didn't really do a lot of sexy stuff with 12. But he put in occasional moments where he made 11 kind of queer as well. And so getting us prepared for that being something that we will be seeing perhaps a little bit more is really interesting. I didn't grab a lot of images from this episode for the same reason that they were very cagey about what the plot of this episode was, where I feel like, it would remove some of the excitement and mystery if they had been more forthcoming. It was just sort of kind of an episode, and it was a good episode, but I think we'd been hoping for and expecting something more blockbuster when we felt like we were only going to have so much of Donna. What?
No, I knocked everything over, gesturing emphatically to agree with you. And then I saw Tom put the mavity of it all, and I have to go struggle.
Oh, that's great.
Save my my sad mouse. Sorry.
Yeah, and jokes like that, mavity, very silly, very dumb, and then brought up in a deeply dramatic moment. But that's Russell T Davies, and
I did.
The mavity
I did,
made me lose my point.
I'm so sorry, Kevo.
No, you're fine.
You had taken so few stills because they were very cagey about the plot of this episode publicly
Yeah, no,
initially.
you're fine.
I do actually want to say, though, that one of the things that I thought about this episode was so interesting in the ways that it actually compared to Beacon 23, and how one of the things that means that Doctor Who is doing is it's trying to stay on the forefront of evolving sci-fi. That's really exciting. I feel like Doctor Who was doing a lot of, it's that Mark Waid quote. Daredevil spent 30 years doing, versions of the most successful version of Daredevil, which was Frank Miller. So, it took somebody saying, let's shake things up. And I feel like it's shocking that it's almost like Frank Miller coming back is what shook things up for Doctor Who. I think, we were seeing a lot of stories that were getting bigger and bigger conceptually. And this proves you can do stories just about people, just about will Donna get her memories back and what does that mean? What happens if the Doctor and Donna face off against themselves? There's a real effort to tell stories about character and not about the largeness of the Doctor Who universe. And that's very impressive from a guy who made it so large.
Like Donna, I remembered what I was going to say, and it really feeds into what you're saying, which is I think part of also where our expectations were so high, and my expectations, at least personally, was I was kind of expecting this would be it for Donna. I didn't know if she would die. I didn't know what would happen, but I wasn't really expecting, at least currently, I feel like Donna is being left in a place where she might meet Shurigawa. She could still appear, and that I think more than anything is what I hadn't been expecting. I always thought we would perhaps see Donna again someday, but I feel like she's left in such a place where Catherine Tate could come back and appear kind of at her leisure, and that's really cool, and that's a really exciting time for us to be in.
Especially if you possibly could see some maybe shipping Rose with the Doctor. Shooty's kind of a much younger gentleman. And
there's huge Peter Pan stuff to that with, yeah.
And it would take all of the emotional responsibility of being romantically entangled with his young female companion off of his character, which would allow him to function in a way that's a little bit different than the Doctor. The Doctor is always, historically, at least in the modern era, with the exception of, something like Madame de Pompadour or, the continuousness of, River Song, was very focused on, does he love Rose? Does he have feelings for Martha when Martha has feelings for him? No. Does he have feelings for Amy Pond? Does he have feelings for Clara? It always is pointed at the companion, or it's a Bill situation. It's a, Donna situation where there's no feelings. So I wonder if something like giving the Doctor a new Rose to be interested in would allow the character to not experience sort of cyclical patterns of romance on the same fixations.
And to answer this, yes, Tasty Cake, New Rose is to return. That is what we are hearing. So, who knows?
So I'd love to wrap Doctor Who and make our way over to Beacon 23, which had the best fourth episode of any show since James's Laid had the best second line of any song. She only comes when she's on top.
This was a great episode. I don't have a ton more to say about it. I think we covered really everything. This is one, in the best way, not much to talk about, a lot to see for yourself. And just kind of to internalize. And I think it's, unfortunately for a show like ours and for people who love to talk Doctor Who, this has kind of got middle child syndrome. You really want to talk about that first one, because that first one is everything coming back, and we got the Dr. Donna, and, we saw Rose, and we saw all of that. Next one, we're getting Neil Patrick Harris as a very old villain returned. We have to...
Wait, he's appearing as his own face in his nightmares?
Nailed it. He's appearing as himself in that tweet to Rachel Bloom, or about Rachel Bloom.
Oh my God.
Who is this lady? Who is this lady?
I work with your husband, you savage monster.
You beast.
By the time this ends, we're going to kind of need to know some idea of why this happened at all. So this last one there's going to be a lot to talk about too. This one, there's not a lot to talk about. And that's great because then we can just experience it and it's cool. And it was a classic Russell T Davies episode, even if that's, you know, not necessarily what you would think you would get from only 3 specials.
You know, I really love your, like, I come and go from Who as I need to. It's not one of my core franchises perspective, lining up with so much core franchise perspective, because there are so many wrong perspectives on Doctor Who right now. So I like that we are representing different levels of, you know, connection to the series, and still coming in on, this was pretty positive. You know, Kevo, you are the midichlorians of our Doctor Who force, and I would really love to know what you felt about this episode, despite having watched it next to you and hearing the shrieks.
You know, I really loved a lot of it. I didn't love some of the climax of it, which I will leave alone for other people to catch up on. You know, it's crazy that most people could have seen it by now. I was saying on the other show that I was on, Traveling TARDIS, that I had gotten a text from Tori mid-afternoon, a little TARDIS gift, because she'd watched the episode, because it was up on Disney Plus. It's just right there, and so you can go watch it at your leisure. There's no more hunting it down or waiting until it's available where you are, which is great. You know, I really agree with a lot of what everyone is saying, with what TK said about it being sort of the middle child of these specials, and you know, we have so few, and so we have limited expectations, whereas, and to transition us into our next program, I really don't, I continue to not even know what to expect of Beacon 23, because we had episodes 3 and 4 of this program, 3 continuing the linear story of it, and then 4 being a completely separate, removed story in so many ways. And so now I'm left wondering, like, are we going to continue to see vignettes like that, which I would love? Are we going to focus on the main story? I don't really know what to expect from this program, honestly.
Would you like a little spoiler?
No, I don't want any. So hold on. Wait, ready? Kevo, if you would like one, that's fine. But
Do you want it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I checked IMDb. Barbara Hershey has a second episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at the very least, so that's interesting.
Yeah. This show really has just taken me by surprise. The first thing I thought when I ended the third one, was the last time we talked about the show, Nico was like, I really liked it. I maybe wish it wasn't so nihilistic and grim. So I'll just be interested to see where it goes. And we finished the third one and I was like, I don't think Nico's gonna get his wish.
I literally tuned out halfway through the third one and said, it's fine. I will find out everything that happened in the third one during the fourth one.
And then we get to
Yeah.
get the fourth one, and it's definitely like, this is just, but it also is
Give
giving
Barbara
me-
Hershey her fucking Emmy, though.
I mean, so that's the other thing, is the fourth one is not a totally separate story. It's a prequel episode.
Best fucking episode. Best fucking episode of sci-fi I watched this year. Seriously.
It really was. So it's a prequel episode that takes place on Beacon 23, 180 years earlier, where now Barbara Hershey in the past is the lighthouse keeper, and just is having a very similar but very different experience, in which now we start to realize 2 things. One, that there is there's something happening here that is transcends time, that is more than just the mystery of what's going on with our main characters in their present.
Wait, does this not connect to the rocks?
No, I think it does. That's my point.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I was like, we were saying this was beyond what happens with, I was like, no, 2 mysteries at 2 different time points. I can't do this. This is not lost.
Just that it's
No, I
more
think-
than what we've already seen.
Okay.
Right. I think those mysteries are connected, but they don't ever mention the rocks specifically. You know, they're talking about other things and how those things manifest. And the, you know, also that there is this thematic thing going on. So much of the show is just about the isolation of being this lighthouse keeper and what happens when anybody comes into your life, and how much suspicion that brings and how much breaking your isolation takes you to places that you aren't necessarily ready to go. It is just absolutely a beautiful show, but it is very dark and it's very confusing. I think not because it's poorly done. I think it really is trying to leave you in a constant state of not knowing what's going on and not being sure if you're getting all of the clues, if you are understanding what everybody's motives are. There's clearly so much that we still don't know and don't understand. And, because I know that it is inspired now by a book by Hugh Howey, who wrote the Silo series. And so much of Silo was about not understanding what was going on and why the silo existed and what came before. And those details came later. I think that's very much a part of his writing style. So that's very much going to be a part of the structure of this particular story.
And I have to say though, one of the things that as we're watching this series unfold that really speaks to me, and I hate postulating on stories and stuff like that, but I'm gonna make a big swing on this one. I really kind of like it just being about Beacon 23. Like,
Yes.
the rock stuff is cool, but it ultimately doesn't matter to me what it means, and I kind of even hope it doesn't really matter, except that it is part of an ongoing drama going on in this universe that Beacon 23 exists in. And I loved going back in time to see this lighthouse keeper and get this story. And I would love to see points in the interim that will probably tie into the overall mystery, because you want to keep some sort of thread and narrative that makes it a cohesive series. But just the idea that it's really more about these vignettes about the beacon itself and that station and its history, I'm really fascinated by that, and I think that would be awesome.
And we've now had two perspectives as the centralized narrative focus that are Yannick, in regard to the secondary character being a phallic intruder who does not belong there in some regard. Even if the person has a native home sense to that location, they're intrusive. So there is something to be said for the mothering protective nature of the beacon. Even if that's sort of just the trappings of the situation, I came to episode 4 expecting Cersei Lannister to be standing near one of the gold bodies of my mental gym days, right? And instead, I basically got what if Cora Dark Fairy Tale Mama was battling against bald Jeff Goldblum. And it was really, it was enlightening. One of the things that I thought this episode really provided for me was an understanding of why Beacon 23 is meant to be a lighthouse. When we're talking about space lighthouses, it's so easy to get, sort of swept up in the idea of the Star Wars blaster and do you fire at your enemies? But this isn't really about that. This is about representing a way station in a travelogue, right? This is about understanding almost like cosmological Rand McNally. You know what I mean? This is about recognizing the necessity of these sorts of structures for our highwaymen and what it means to, I only wish they could do
Yeah.
I am a lineman for the space county. You know what I mean? This really is one of the most human things we've talked about. I think episode 3 might have almost lost me, but gosh, episode 4 is just one of the finest pieces of sci-fi I've seen this year, if not the finest. Barbara Hershey really should be submitted for an Emmy. Tim Cook, use that apple pull, make it happen.
Your joke though is something that makes me hope that we could get something like that, and it's something that I really love about sci-fi fantasy worlds that are set at least partially in the real world, where even when it's this far removed, just like the occasional like sprinkling of something that is a pop culture that we could find recognizable and more specific into linemen for the county than like just the general, oh, the ballet of Sleeping Beauty. Like, yeah, okay, that's a thing, sure, but like actual like deep pop culture, like just the occasional reference to that is something that I feel really grounds something like this, and that would be really cool.
And not to mention the Wichita skyline if you're a Sean Colvin person. Um, Also, I think we can all agree that the greatest ever performance of that song is by far Megan Mullally's husband, Nick Offerman, um,
Strapped to
performing
a
it.
pole in the
Yeah,
dead of
performing it
night.
on Parks and Recreation. It is so unassuming. TK, you brought us this beautiful show, and I cannot wait to watch it all the way through this season. How did you feel about 3 and 4? And give us some closing thoughts on Beacon 23. Are you a Beacon 24 kind of guy, or are you stopping at Beacon 22?
Okay.
That question makes no sense.
Time out. You're in timeout.
I love this show. I think it has a feeling. It's very much like a play, like we're just on this one stage with this primary actor, and then the two primary actors, and then people show up and they do their scenes and then they disappear, and somebody else shows up and then they disappear, and we kind of don't understand why this keeps happening. But it is so isolating and dark, and I don't understand anybody's motivations. I don't understand if there is, because we know that there's more going on, but I don't know if it's in like the island is making them do it kind of way, or if it's just this is a time in the universe where everybody is suspicious of each other and everything is dark. And I like not knowing. I like that there are elements that lead me to believe that there could be something, sci-fi going on that is causing a lot of this stuff, but also that it might turn out that like life is sometimes just horrible. And you really got a lot of that in episode 3. And then in episode 4, it just kind of reinforced the idea that this is no matter what is happening, this is a dark period for humanity. This is a difficult place to live. This is a time of suspicion. And it's also a time of like a lot of very human moments, people being very human. Barbara Hershey being such a mother that she can't kind of get out of her own way, and her adversary in this episode being somebody who has such lofty goals that he's willing to die for them, and they've kind of driven him a little bit crazy, the two of them coming into conflict and coming together. It's just all very beautiful and interesting, and I think really well executed. And I love Barbara Hershey on Once Upon a Time, or just once.
It's Once Upon a Time, but we call it Once so that its name isn't silly.
But very campy character, and sort of not always the most pleasant to watch when the stories came to fruition. So it was really pleasant to watch her in something where she really got to act her fucking heart out
with subtlety and nuance.
Yeah,
and I really love what you're saying, and I think it speaks to everything you're saying about how the word is complex for this show. And it's really trying, I feel, to push you to think. I remember, Nico, you had a very strong reaction to the end of this episode, not really sure how we were supposed to feel. And the point that I made to you is, I don't think that we're necessarily supposed to think that she is the hero, without giving too much away for anyone who still wants to go and check this out for themselves. It turns out a very motherly influence on the AI character of Bart, and he does something that she is not happy with and has a very strong reaction. And I don't necessarily think that her reaction is correct, and I don't think that we're necessarily supposed to think that it is. And she's a flawed person, for as much as throughout the episode we are made to feel like she is a very good and strong and heroic character. That doesn't mean that she isn't flawed herself. And I think that's something that this show is trying to convey as well. And so I'm interested to see where that goes in the future, in the past, in the middle, all around.
Well, I just want to say that from a show that talks about flawed, complicated, beautifully nuanced characters
And
to
the
a
future and the
show
past.
to a show that has the subtlety of hitting a steam train with a wrecking ball. I love Monarch, but Monarch Legacy of Monsters is about as delicate as throwing bags of cement.
I don't think that's true.
It is. It just hits
I
every point
agree
on the head as
with
hard
you,
as it
PK.
can.
Okay.
I think a lot of the character work, especially between Kentaro, May, Kate, especially between Kentaro, May, and Kate, really is more subtle. I think between Bill and Shaw and I'm forgetting her name, but between the in the flashback
The other
scenes,
trio. The
Yeah.
other trio.
the original trio, I think it's a little less subtle with them, but Kate and Kentaro's understanding that they are siblings and that they are, they have to reckon with the fact that they have the same father. Kate and May's burgeoning friendship, Kentaro having to, May keeps telling him, I get that you didn't intend for any of this to happen, but you ruined my life. And like, I'm about to lose physical body parts because of you. Our like romance from back in the day sort of no longer matters. I wouldn't say it's like subtle, but I think it is complex and very much kind of under the surface and dealt with in between moments, where the big things that are dealt with are, a giant star-faced mole that eats heat. That's not subtle.
And I hear you.
No.
I don't mean to make it sound like I think the show is oversimplistic. It's just that all of the moments you're pointing to are the only focus of that scene. They are what the dialogue is about, they are what the direction refers to, and they are what all of the shots support. It's not that the moments don't require deeper thought, but there's nothing to read under the surface. It's right there. And I think that's for me where this show is actually a relief. Beacon 23 exhausts me. I really
I
like
got
it.
you.
But 2 of that in a row, and I need a fucking Klonopin smoothie. I am tired. And, 2 of this in a row, and I'm ready to go see another movie. Like,
Let's go. Give me more.
so I think maybe perhaps my language was a little damning, but what Monarch offers me is a straightforward opportunity to enjoy the things that I enjoy about slightly standard action fare. I would actually compare the quality of the intelligent action in Monarch to that of something like an Indiana Jones. There really isn't more to read. White guy goes and saves foreign nation. It's pretty on the nose, but like, it's Harrison Ford, so it looks fucking great in a tight pair of khakis. And that's, I think, kind of what Monarch is. This is a really handsome cast being really handsome. I'll admit, perhaps, while I do love the duality of having a very competent actor play a very famous actor's son, I maybe find myself a little past the age of believability, in that I know that I'm seeing an older actor portray a modern character archetype. And so some of it comes off a little bit, oh no, oh good, oh yes, kind of pantomime-y. And while I love Kurt Russell's performance here, and Wyatt Russell gives an incredible interpretation of 23 of his chromosomes, I think that there are points where I feel like I'm watching a guy from 40 years ago argue for his relevance on screen. He's the one thing I would maybe change, but certainly not in a way that demerits the show.
Yeah, he's kind of kooky old guy so far in the Kurt Russell capacity, and in the Wyatt Russell capacity, he's kind of just stalwart beef stick. And it's monster movies, so I'm not exactly looking for the most dynamic.
It doesn't need to be Kierkegaard.
This really makes me think of, like we were talking about earlier. We've been looking into Scream for a project that we're doing, and we really enjoyed just like pounding it back, because it's not completely mindless, but it is low power mind and focus energy, where you can just sort of let it wash over you and enjoy the occasional pops of action. It is really important to make sure that you are giving us good characters, because these moments are really, really, really awesome, and this is what you are watching for. But if you don't have really, really cool stuff like these characters that are so engaging and keep you going in the moments between when the monsters pop out, then there's nothing. There really is nothing. There needs to be engaging characters that you genuinely care about in between those monster moments. Otherwise, it's not giving you much.
And I think they're banking a little bit on the stunt casting of having the father and son.
Truly.
And it's fine. I what I'm very thankful for is that I'm a little concerned that there is going to be an affair, and that Shaw is going to ultimately be more important to this whole legacy than I would like. But I also
he's
think
so old. He doesn't age. He looks younger every time. He's so old. How doesn't he age?
Well, that's so there's two questions. One, I'm worried there's an affair. The other is that
he means this.
Yeah. I'm worried that they're that they had an affair, and that's one of the, some of the kids are there. I don't know. But so that's one thing. The other thing is the aging, the fact that Kurt Russell is not 90 and should be. So those are the two questions with the character. But other than that, the character is just there to be a reference to action star Kurt Russell being in something. And that's actually perfectly fine, because we don't focus, especially on Kurt Russell, that much. He doesn't have any dangling plot lines that we need to deal with. It really is about Kate, May, and Kentaro. And then now we're starting to pull in the upper echelons of Monarch that are very clearly not as insidious as we are originally led to believe, but are still obviously a bunch of fucks.
Yeah. I love that super handsome guy isn't just really intense, but he's also like, he seems to actually kind of want to do something okay for the world.
Yeah, he does seem to be trying to do good. He also definitely semi-kidnapped Kate and didn't feel really bad about it. So it's an interesting, and that's the kind of complexity that, because we have so many of those and only one Kurt Russell, we're fine. If they had decided to be and Kurt Russell will be in half an hour of every 45-minute episode, it would be a little exhausting. But because he is usually a utility for the rest of the stuff to use, it ends up working for the most part pretty well. I really appreciate that we have, over these 4 episodes, ramped up the amount of monster that we get and the situationality of the monsterness that we get. I'm really excited to see how that goes, but watching Godzilla break out of the ocean and just approach a nuclear bomb
Kevo literally went, wow.
That was most
wild.
And such a huge departure from Godzilla lore that I think a lot of us have seen, and was just so cool to see.
I thought it was really peaceful that they didn't show the corpse.
Well, I think that's also one of those things where, is there a corpse?
I think there's not a corpse. I think he absorbed all that radiation.
Me too.
That's the point.
I think so much of this speech scene also spoke to what we're talking about with can Monarch be trusted? Yes and no. I think when you are faced with the actual reality, and it's one of the reasons I think it's so cool that we are seeing such amazingly well done Godzilla productions in this era of television at this level of production value, that really, really, really helps sell the size, gravity, mavity, the grandeur of Titans. What the hell would you do if you learned this was a real thing? And what would you possibly do to try and protect the world from the devastation that these creatures could like wreak on like anywhere on the planet? And learning that there are more and more of them, terrifying. So what does that do to a person who feels they are in a position where they could possibly prevent something like that? At least predict and hopefully be better prepared. But you know, the current timeline of the TV show is 2015. They are still woefully underprepared, and there are movies set in this universe still after this TV show where they are still coming to terms with what do we do in this world where these creatures are real.
I sure hope Godzilla doesn't get COVID. You know, the big thing that I'm taking away from Monarch is that you can take these sort of what I think we can call kind of like base level ideas, you know, these, you know, classic monster movies and expand on them to include the sort of psychological investigation that the literary origins of these films really were meant to include. They were meant to respond to the idea of the atomic age and all that went along with it. And they are really trying to make Godzilla like literarily relevant. And I'm very impressed. And I'm really glad we're talking about this show. I'd love to get everybody's final thoughts. For me, you know, I think there's a humor to it that it's that Godzilla is so big, we can't even process it. Like, it is a Leatherface body count. It is a ghost face body count. It is the amount of face makeup that Tammy Faye Baker put on every morning. He is so immense, so too much. We can't process it. So the idea that this is a military that is reacting to a world where they're like, there could be so many Titans. Our job is to put endless money into it. That's a really fascinating way to present this world. I find it scary. I find it really engaging and mindlessly fun. I'm in for the whole season. Can't wait to go back, grab the movies and the Netflix TV show that aired before this.
Netflix animated TV
Right.
show.
Oh shit! Is it
animated?
animated? Well,
Oh, that explains why it's starring Mae Whitman. Okay.
And of course, we
It's
just
plain as
got.
the egg on Godzilla's face.
And today we got the trailer for the new Godzilla vs. Kong film.
What?
Which, you know, and we'll watch them and we will get into it more, but it's
Yeah.
sort of like the Axe event of Marvel, which was my first and potentially only crossover, which is none of these people are against each other. It is not a versus. They are friends. They are co-workers. It's fine. Whatever.
Is why people still remember Freddy vs. Jason. Those bitches were actually verses.
Anti-Titan cooperation propaganda is what it is.
I really agree with you. This is so well done. It's wild to me that Apple isn't advertising this more because everybody who sees this is charmed by it. It is really fun. The MonsterVerse is coming together really cohesively, and I think is consistently arguing well for its own value and for your participation in it. I've never been more excited to go pick up a bunch of movies that I wasn't at all against, but was not like must see.
Same.
I mean, like I love Vera Farmiga. There were a bunch of moments from trailers of Godzilla King of Monsters that I was like, oh, I kind of do want to see that. But I was never so motivated until now when I saw the show and I thought like they really have something here. Weirdly, most characters don't cross over very much. They kind of stay in one or two movies and nowhere else. The biggest crossover is Bill Randa, Anders Holm, but more specifically John Goodman.
Yes.
Goodman, I believe, is in like three things now.
Is he playing his
moment.
Cloverfield character? Because then I don't care. I'm kidding. Thank you for mentioning Anders Holm, who is very handsome, but he's not Brad Pitt. And he's very handsome, but he's not Matt LeBlanc. And he's very talented, but he's not Denzel Washington. And he's very talented, but he's not James Spader. So, like, Anders Holm is a really likable guy who was never going to find his niche as a leading man. I think this is hopefully going to be a place that he can be remembered. And if nothing else, he can get his good run out of the Comic-Con circuit, making appearances as Anders Holm of the Godzilla franchise.
And Workaholics and everything else he's done. Muppets now. He really is becoming sort of a I don't know. I need a term for that. There's just that person who pops up recurringly in all these minor roles just everywhere. And you're like, oh, it's that guy. Oh, that dog of mine.
Oh,
This
that
Doggy
dog.
Door.
Oh, it is
This Doggy
Doggy Door.
Door. That's
Right.
what it is.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap us, right? This has been an amazing 2 hours. We talked about like way more Drag Race than I could have imagined went down in a week or two. We talked about some amazing sci-fi and some really fun monster action. And I think one of the things I am most excited about is the opportunity to promote the stuff that's coming. Next weekend, we have our 24-hour movie marathons. But before that, you can check out our nonstop awesome coverage of Marvel Comics' amazing event, Gang War. Actually, it's fun. It's fun because Zeb Wells takes himself not too seriously for the first time this run, and it's a lot of fun. So check out Wednesday's broadcast of Gang War. Check out Saturday's broadcast of our 72 hours of 3 24-hour holiday marathons. Before we come back to cover more amazing TV next Sunday, I got to know, guys, what are you most excited about? Okay, I'll go first. I am most excited about these holiday marathons because I love making you guys watch fireworks shows.
Yes. And because that is my big thing, and I am the one who is always like, can we please do this? That is certainly going to also be on my list of things that I am excited to do. I'm really excited for so many of the awesome holiday things that we are doing, which is why I am so distracted trying to make sure that I am flooding our comments with several different links to all the cool different things that we have, like a cool medley of holiday music by our very own Nico Action, which you can check out. I have up the episode cover for yesterday's broadcast, which was the Holiday Toys Showdown, which we still have the tier maker up for. So definitely go over and vote on that. We will be presenting the final results sometime next week, probably when we do our marathon broadcast. Who knows?
We were really hard on My Little Pony.
Well,
They suck.
Also,
it happens.
I was thinking to myself, we should actually see about using that theme song for Drag Race. My little drag queen looking so dragsy. It would be perfect.
Brilliant.
Kevo, your face is covered by the...
These links are so long. Playlists especially, those hyperlinks
Truly.
are super long. And I don't
They're
know why
enormous.
They are
Well,
filled with holiday amazing from us. So they should be, right? But this has been an incredible 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 18 seconds. And I cannot wait to come back and do it all Wednesday. But until then, Kevo, you have been the most incredible producer alongside amazing fans like Robbie, Tasty Cake, and more. Love having you guys all in the chat, and also love all of the comments we've been getting. We have an amazing fan, Bruno Campos, who can't always be with us, but goes out of his way to comment on every video after the fact. Such a nice thing to do. Really love hearing from you. So we always know what you're feeling about our content, right? So don't forget, like and subscribe and leave some comments. But Kevo, where can everybody find you if they don't want to leave the comment directly on the video?
You can find me over on the socials at Kev O'Reilly. That's KEVOREALLY. Teak, where can the folks who don't find you?
You can find me at TK Elemental. Nico, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me all over the interwebs at Nico Action. That's just search Nico Action, NICOACTION. I'm going to make one small request. The only other place you can find me if you play a lot of Marvel Contest of Champions is at Nico Howlett. That's spelt like Wolverine's last name. Please look me up. I'm so excited about this
Hold on.
Onslaught drop on Wednesday. I can barely talk about it.
Is that how it sounds? Just howl and then 2 T's?
Yep.
There you go. I put it in the comments for you.
Bless. Thank you. So the last thing I need you guys to do is it's a trifecta. Number 1, you guys got to stay safe. It's crazy out there, right? So stay safe. Number 1. Number 2, you got to be brave, right? Most important thing you can do, be brave. And if you're brave every day, number 3, you're going to evolve daily. And we can't wait to see who you're going to be tomorrow. It could be totally different. It could be the same, but we love you no matter what. And we can't wait to see you. So like, subscribe, comment, stay safe, be brave, evolve daily, watch stuff, and we'll see you.
Bye.